The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 6, Section 1, Lectures and Discourses. This is the first principle of Vedanta, that realization in religion. And he who realizes is the religious man, and he who does not is not better than he who says, I do not know. If not worse, because the other says, I do not know, and is sincere. In this realization, again, we shall be happy, helped very much by these books. Not only has guides, but has giving instructions and exercises. For every science has its own particular method of investigation. You will find many persons in the world who will say, I wanted to become religious. I wanted to realize these things, but I have not been able, so I do not believe anything. Even among the educated, you will find this. Large number of people will tell you, I have tried to be religious all my life, but there is nothing in it. At the same time, you will find this phenomenon. Suppose a man is a chemist, a great scientific man. He comes and tells you this. If you say to him, I do not believe anything about chemistry because I have all my life tried to become a chemist and do not find anything in it, he will ask, when did you try? When I went to bed, I repeated, oh, chemistry, come to me, and it never came. That is very same thing. The chemist laughs at you and say, oh, that is not the way. Why did you not go to the laboratory and get all the acid and alkalines and burn your hands from time to time? That alone would have taught you. Do you take the same trouble with religion? Every science has its own method of learning, and religion is to be learned the same way. It has its own methods, and here is something we can learn and must learn. From all the ancient prophets of the world, everyone who has found something, who has realized religion, they will give us the method, the particular methods through which alone we shall be able to realize the truth of religion. They struggled all their lives, discovered particular methods of mental culture, bringing the mind to a certain state, the finest perception, and through that they preserved the truth of religion. To become religious, to receive religion, feel it. To become a prophet, we have to take these methods and practice them. And then, if we find nothing, we shall have the right to say, there is nothing in religion, for I have tried and failed. This is the practical side of all religions. You will find it in every Bible in the world. Not only do they teach principles and doctrines, but in the lives of the saints, you find practicals, and when it is not expressly laid down as a rule of conduct, you will always find in the lives of these prophets that even they regulated their eatings and drinking sometimes. Their whole lives, their practices, their methods, everything are different from the masses. Some who surrounded them, and those were the cause that gave them the higher light, the vision of the divinity. And we, if we want to have this vision, must be ready to take up these methods. It is practice, work that will bring us up to that. The plan of Vedanta, therefore, is first to lay down the principles, map out for us the goal, and then to teach us the methods by which to arrive the goal, to understand and to realize religion. Again, these methods must be various. Seeing that we are so various in our nature, the same method can scarcely be applied to any two of us in the same manner. We have idiosyncrasies in our minds, each one of us, so the methods ought to be varied. Some you will find are very emotional in their nature, some very philosophical, rational, and others cling to all sort of ritualistic forms, want things which are concrete. You will find that one man does not care for any ceremony or form or anything of the sort. They are like death to him. And another man carries a load of amulets all over his body. He is so fond of this He is so fond of these symbols. Another man who is emotional in his nature want to show acts of charity to everyone. He weeps, he laughs, and so on. And all of this certainly cannot have the same method. If there were only one method to arrive at the truth, it would be that for everyone else who is not similarly constituted. Therefore, the methods should be various. Vedanta understands that and wants to lay before the world different methods through which we can work. Take up anyone you like, and if one does not suit you, take another. From that standpoint, we see how glorious it is that there are so many religions in the world. How good of it how good it is that there are so many teachers and prophets instead of there being only one. As many persons would like to have it. Mohammedans want to have the whole world Mohammedan. The Christians Christian, Buddhistic. But Vedanta says, let each person in the world be separate, if you will. That one principle, the unity will be behind. The more profit there are, the more books, more shares, more methods, so much the better for the world. Such as in social life, the greater the number of occupation in every society, the better for the society. The occupation in every society, the better for the society. In more chance, the more chance is there for everyone of that society to make a living. So the world of thoughts and of religion, how much better it is today when we have so many divisions of science. How much more is it possible for everyone to have great mental culture with the great variety before us? How much better it is, even on the physical plane, to have the opportunity of so many various things spread before us so that we may choose anyone we like, the one which suits us best. So it is with the world of religion. It is a most glorious dispensation of the Lord that there are so many religions in the world, and would to God that this could or this would increase every day until every man had a religion unto himself. Vedanta understands that and therefore preaches one principle and admits various methods. It has nothing to say against anyone, whether you are Christians or a Buddhist or a Jewish or a Hindu. Whatever mythology you believe, whatever you owe allegiance to the Prophet of Nazareth or of Makkah or of India or of anywhere else, whether you yourself are a prophet, it has nothing to say. The only preaches the principle. It only preaches the principle which is the background of every religion and of which all the prophets and saints and seers are but illustrations and manifestations. Multiply your profit if you like. It has no objection. It only preaches the principle and the methods it leaves to you. Take my path. Take any path you like. Follow any prophet you like. But have only that matter which suits you, own nature, your own nature, so that you will be sure to progress. Next, the nature of soul and its goal. The nature of soul and its goal. The earliest idea is that a man, when he dies, is not annihilated. Something lives and goes on living even after the man is dead. Perhaps it would be better to compare the three most ancient nations, Egyptian, Babylonians, and the ancient Hindus, and take this idea from all of them. With Egyptians and Babylonians, we find a sort of soul idea that of a double. Inside this body, according to them, there is another body which is moving and working here. And when outer body dies, the double gets out and leaves off on for a certain length of time. But the life of the double is limited by the preservation of the outer body. If the body which the double has left is injured in any part, the double is sure to be injured in that part. That is why we find among the ancient Egyptians such solicitude to preserve the dead body of a person by embalming, building pyramids, etc. We find both with Babylonian and the ancient Egyptian that this double cannot live on through eternity. It can at best live on for a certain time only. That is just as long as the body it has left can be preserved. The next peculiarity is that there is an element of fear connected with this double. It is always unhappy and miserable. Its state of existence is one of extreme pain. It is again and again coming back to those that are living, asking for food and drink and enjoyment that it can no more have. It is when wanting to drink of water of the Nile, the fresh water which it can no more drink. It wants to get back those foods it used to enjoy while in this life. And when it finds it cannot get them, the double becomes furious, sometimes threatening the lives with the death, livings with the death and disasters if it is not supplied with such food. Coming to the Aryan thought, we at once find a very wide departure. There is a still the double idea here, but it has become a sort of spiritual body. And one great difference is that the life of the spiritual body, the soul, or whatever you can or you may call it, it is not limited by the body it has left. On that contrary, it has obtained freedom from the body and hence the peculiar Aryan custom of burning the dead. They want to get rid of the body which the person has left, while the Egyptians want to preserve it by burying, embalming, and building pyramids. Apart from some most primitive system of doing away of with the dead, Apart from almost primitive system of doing away with the dead, among us nations advanced to a certain extent, the method of doing away with the bodies of the dead is great indication of that idea of the soul. Wherever we find the idea of departed soul closely connected with the idea of the dead body, we always find the tendency to preserve the body, and we also find boring in some form of or other. On the other hand, with those in whom the idea has developed that the soul is a separate entity from the body and will not be hurt if the dead body is even destroyed, burning is always the process restored to. Thus, we find among all the ancient Aryan races burning of the dead, although the Parsis changed it to expose the body on the tower. But the very name of the tower, Dhamma, means a burning place, showing that in the ancient times they also used to burn their bodies. The other peculiarity is that among the Aryans there was no element of fear with these doubles. They are not coming back or coming down to ask for food or help. And when denied that help, they do not become furious or try to destroy those that are living. They rather are joyful and are glad to getting free. The fire of the funeral pyre is the symbol of disintegration. The symbol is asked to take the departed soul gently up and to carry it to the place where the fathers live, where there is no sorrow, where there is no joy forever, where there is no sorrow, where there is joy forever, and so on. Of these two ideas, we see at once that they are of similar nature, the one optimistic and the other pessimistic being the elementary. The one is the evolution of the other. It is quite possible that the Aryan themselves had or may have had in very ancient times exactly the same idea of the Egyptians. In studying their most ancient records, we find the possibility of this very idea, but it is quite a bright thing but it is a quite a bright thing, something bright. When a man dies, this soul goes to live with the fathers and lives there enjoying their happiness. These fathers receive it with great kindness. This is the most ancient idea in India of a soul. Later on, this idea becomes higher and higher. Then it was found out that what they called the soul before was not really the soul. This bright body, fine body, however, fine it might be, was a body after all. And all bodies must be made up of materials, either gross or fine. Whatever had forms or shape must be limited and could not be eternal. Change is inherent in every form. How could that which is changeful be eternal? So, behind this bright body, as it were, they found something which was the soul of man. It was called the Atman, the self. This self idea then began. It had also to undergo various changes. By some, it was thought that this self was eternal, that it was very minute, almost as minute as an atom, and it that it lived in a certain part of the body, and when a man died, his self went away, taking along with it a bright body. There were other people who denied the atomic nature of soul on the same ground on which they had denied that this bright body was the soul. Out of all these various opinions rose Sankhya philosophy, where at once we find immense difference. The idea there is that a man has first his gross body. Behind the gross body, there is a fine body, which is the vehicle of the mind, as it were, and behind even that is a self, the perceiver, as the song calls it, of the mind, and this is the omnipresent. That is our soul, my soul. Everyone's soul is everywhere at the same time. If it is formless, how can it be said to occupy space? Everything that occupies space has form. The formless can only be infinite. So is soul is everywhere. The second theory put forward is still more startling. They all saw in ancient times that human beings are progressive, at least many of them. They grew in purity and power and knowledge, and the question was asked, whence what this knowledge, this purity, and this strength which men manifested? Here is the baby without any knowledge. This baby grows and becomes a strong, powerful, and wise man. Whence did that baby get its wealth of knowledge and power? The answer was that it was in the soul. The soul of the baby had the knowledge and the power from the very beginning. This power, this purity, this strength were in the soul, but they were unmanifested. They have become manifested. What is meant by this manifestation or unmanifestation? That each soul is pure and perfect, omnipotent, omniscient, as they say in the Sankhya, but it can manifest itself externally only according to the mind it has got. The mind is, as it were, the reflecting mirror of the soul. My mind reflects to a certain extent the power of my soul. So your soul and everyone's soul. That mirror, which is clearer, reflects the soul better. So the manifestation varies according to the mind one possesses, but the soul is themselves are pure. But the soul in themselves are pure and perfect. There was another school who thought that this could not be. Though souls are pure and perfect by their nature, this purity and perfection become, as they say, contracted at times and expands at another time. There are certain actions and certain thoughts which, as it were, contract the nature of the soul, and then also other thoughts and acts which bring its nature out, manifest it. This again is explained. All thoughts and actions that makes the power and purity of the soul get contracted are evil actions. Evil thoughts and all those thoughts and actions which make the soul manifest itself, make the powers come out as it were, are good and moral actions. The difference between the two theories is very slight. It is more or less a play on the word explanation and contraction. The one that holds that variation only depends on the mind. The soul has got is the better explanation, no doubt, but the contracting or contraction and expanding theory want to take refuge behind the two words, and they should be said or asked what is meant by contraction of a soul or expansion. Soul is the spirit. You can question what is meant by contraction and expansion with regard to the material, whether gross, which we call matter, or fine, the mind. But beyond that, if it is not matter, that which is not bound by space or by time, how to explain the words contraction and expansion with regard to that? So it seems that this theory which holds that the soul is pure and perfect all the time, only its nature is more reflected in some minds than in others, is the better. As the mind changes, its character grows. Has it were more and more clear and gives a better reflection of the soul. Thus, it goes on until the mind has become so purified that it reflects fully the quality of the soul. Then the soul becomes liberated. This is nature of the soul. What is the goal? The goal of the soul among all the different sects in India seems to be the same. There is one idea with all, and that is liberation. Man is infinite, and this limitation is which in which he exists now is not his nature. But through this limitation, he is struggling upward and forward until he reaches the infinite, the unlimited, his birthright, his nature. All this combination and recombination and manifestation that we see round us are not the aim of or the goal, but merely by the way and in passing but merely by the way and in passing, these combinations has earths or and sun and moons and stars, rights and wrongs, good and bad, our laughters, our tears, our joys, our sorrows, are to enable us to gain experience through which the soul manifests its perfect nature and throws off limitations, no more than it no more than is it bound by laws either of internal or external nature. It has gone beyond all law, beyond all limitation, beyond all nature. Nature has come under the control of the soul, not the soul under the control of nature, as it thinks it is now. That is one goal that the soul has, and all the succeeding steps through which it is manifested, all the successive experiences through which it is passing, in order to attain to that goal, freedom are represented as its births. The soul is, as it were, taking up a lower body and trying to express itself through that. It finds that to be insufficient, throws it aside, and a higher one is taken up. Through that, it struggles to express itself. That also is found to be insufficient, is rejected, and a higher one comes, so on until a body is found through which the soul manifests its highest aspirations. Then the soul becomes free. Now, the question is, if the soul is infinite and exists everywhere as it must do, if it is a spirit, what is meant by its taking up bodies and passing through bodies after body? The idea is that the soul neither comes nor goes, neither it is born nor dies. How can the omnipresent be born? It is a meaningless nonsense to say that the soul lives in the body. How can the unlimited live in a limited space? But has a man having a book in his hand reads one page and turns it over, goes to the next page, reads that, turns it over, and so on. Yet it is the book that is being turned over, the pages that are revolving, and not he. And he is here, is where he is always. Even so, with regard to the soil, the whole of nature is the whole of nature is that book which the soul is reading. Each life, as it were, is one page of that book, and that read it is turned over, and so on until the whole of the book is finished and the soul becomes perfect, having got all the experiences of nature. At 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 the same time, it never moved, nor came nor went. It was only gathering experiences, but it appears to us that we are moving, the earth is moving, yet we think that the sun is moving instead of the earth, which we know to be a mistake, a delusion of the senses. So is also this delusion that we are born and we die, that we come and that we go. We neither come nor go, nor have we been born. For where is the soul to go? There is no place for it to go. Where is it not already? Thus, the theory comes of the evolution of nature and manifestation of the soul. The process of evolution, higher and higher combination, are not in the soul. It is already what it is. They are in nature, but as nature is evolving forward into the higher and higher combination, more and more of the majesty of the soul is manifested itself. Suppose here is a screen, and behind the screen is a wonderful scenery. There is one small hole in the screen wood through which we can catch only a little bit of that scenery behind. Suppose the hole becomes increased in size. As the hole increases in size, more and more of the scenery behind comes within the range of vision. And when the whole screen has disappeared, there is nothing between the scenery and you. You see the whole of it. This screen is the mind of man. Behind it is a majestic, the purity, the infinite power of the soul. As the mind becomes clearer and clearer, purer and purer, more of the majesty of the soul manifests itself. Not that the soul is changing, but the change is in the screen. The soul is unchangeable only, the mortal, the pure, the ever blessed one. So at last the theory comes to this: from the highest to the lowest and the most wicked man, in the greatest of the human being and the lowest of the crawling worms under our feet, is the soul pure and perfect, infinite and ever blessed. In the worm, the soul is manifesting only an infinitesimal part of its power and purity, and in the greatest man, it is manifested most of it. The difference consists in the degree of manifestation, but not in the essence. Through all being exists the same pure and perfect soul. There are also the ideas of heavens and other places, but these are thoughts to be second rated. The idea of heaven is thought to be a low idea. It arises from the desire for the for a place of enjoyment. We foolishly want to limit the whole universe with our present experience. Children think that the whole universe is full of children. Madmen think that the whole universe a lunatic asylum, and so on. So those to whom this world is but sense enjoyment, whose whole life is in eating and feasting, with which with the very little difference between them and brute beasts, such are naturally found to conceive of places where they will have more enjoyment, because this life is short. Their desire for enjoyment is infinite, so they are bound to think of places where they will have unobstructed enjoyments of the senses. And we see as we go on that those who want to go to such places will have to go. They will dream, and when this dream is over, they will be in another dream where there is plenty of sense enjoyment, and when that dream breaks, they will have to find or think of something else. Thus they will be driving about from dream to dream. Then come the last theory, one more idea about the soul. If the soul is pure and perfect in its essence and nature, and if every soul is infinite and omnipresent, how is it that there can be many souls? That cannot be many infinite. There cannot be many infinite. There cannot be two even, not to speak of many. If there were two infinite, one would limit the other and both become finite. The infinite can only be one. And boldly, the last conclusion is approached that it is but one and not two. Two birds are sitting on the same tree, one on the top and other below, both of most beautiful plumage. The one eats the fruit, while the other remains calm and majestic, concentrated in its own glory. The lower bird is eating fruits, good and evil, going after sense enjoyment, and when it eats occasionally a bitter fruit, it gets higher and looks up and sees the other bird sitting there calm and majestic, neither caring for good fruit nor for the bad, sufficient sufficient unto itself, seeking no enjoyment beyond itself. It itself is enjoyment. What to seek beyond itself? The lowest bird looks up looks at the upper bird and wants to get near. It goes a little higher, but its old impressions are upon it, and still it goes about eating the same fruits. An unexpected, again, and exceptionally, exceptionally, it goes about eating the same fruit. Again, an exceptionally bitter fruit comes. It gets a shock, looks up. That the same bird, calm and majestic one. It comes near, but again it drags down by the past actions and continues to eat sweet and bitter fruits. Again, the exceptionally bitter fruit comes. The bird looks up, gets nearer, and as it begins to get nearer and nearer, the light from the plumage of the other bird is reflected upon it. Its own plumage is melting away, and when it has come sufficiently near, the whole vision changes. The lower bird never existed. It was always the upper bird, and what it took from the lower bird was only a little bit of reflection. Such is the nature of the soul. This human soul goes after sense enjoyment, vanities of the world. Like animal, it lives only in the senses, lives only in the momentary titillation of the nerves. When there comes a blow, for a moment the head reels, and everything begins to vanish, and it finds that the world was not what it thought it to be. And it finds that the world was not what it thought to be, and the life was not so smooth. It looks upward and sees the infinite Lord of movement, catches the glimpse of the majestic one, comes a little nearer, but it drags away by its past action. Another blow comes and sends it back again. It catches another glimpse of the infinite presence, comes nearer, and as it approaches nearer and nearer, it begins to find out that its individuality, its slow, vulgar, intensely selfish individuality is melting away. The desire of sacrifice the whole world to make that little thing happy is melted away. And as it gets gradually nearer and nearer, nature begins to melt away. When it has come sufficiently near, the whole vision changes, and it finds that it was the other bird, that this infinite which it had viewed has from a distance was its own self. This wonderful glimpse that it had got of glory and majesty was its own self, and it indeed was that reality. The soul then finds that which is true in everything, that which is in every atom, everywhere present, the essence of all things, the God of all this universe. Know that thou art He. Know that thou art He. Know that thou art free. Know that thou art free.